And it's Miss Levy again, and here we are with part 4 of our web series of our models review. So we left off in part 3 with our peripheral model, or otherwise known as our galactic model. Remember, this is also one of the urban models. So again, the urban models, we have concentric zone, sector model, and multiple nuclei model, all of which were created based on Chicago. And then our more recent model is our peripheral model, the galactic model. This is much more applicable to many of the cities presently in the United States. And as I said, if you looked at this in terms of Orlando, you have the CBD, and then surrounding you have our the residential. And within that residential, you'll have low income, middle income, high income, and then you'll have suburbs out here that could also be middle and high income as well out here in the edge cities. And then you'll have this series of activities that exists, like the mall out here and our industrial area here and our other shopping mall that exists over here and our shopping mall that exists here, just like we do around Orlando. You know, we have Mall Millennia, they have the Florida Mall, we have Altamont Mall, and then we have our airport mode over here. So again, that the city is surrounded by large suburban residential and business areas that are tied together by this transportation node, so major highways and freeways, and that it's a functional metropolitan complex, not a series of separate CBDs, and that it represents urban decentralization. Again, this urban to suburban migration trend. The urban to suburban migration pattern is the most common pattern in MDCs. And so because of this, you see the relocation of many services to the suburban areas as well. And this represents the movements from the secondary to the tertiary based economy sector jobs. So this represents a progression again in our continuum between LDC to DC to MDC, in our continuum of wealth and our continuum of development. So as this wealth and as development changes, you tend to see settlement patterns change. Okay, next we have Weber's least cost theory. And so Weber's least cost theory, the author of this is Alfred Weber. And this is to explain how a manufacturer decides where to locate his or her factory. So again, in von Thunen's model, how does a farmer decide where to locate his agricultural practices? In the urban model, how do we explain where people have chosen to live? In the in the Rostow's economic development model, how do we explain the development of a country from LDC to DC to MDC? In our central place theory, how do we decide where to locate a service? Weber's least cost, how does the manufacturer decide where to locate a factory? Again, this is in the secondary sector. Whenever we look at central place theory, that's tertiary sector. Weber's least cost, this is secondary sector. Von Thunen, that's primary sector. So this model was developed to explain the location of manufacturing establishments focused on the minimization of 3 critical expenses. Again, the goal of every single business, whether it be a farmer, whether it be a service, whether it be a factory, a manufacturer, a person who makes hair bows, is to maximize the profit by minimizing the cost. So according to Weber, there are 3 critical costs that need to be minimized: labor, transportation, and this idea of agglomeration, how to take advantage of the clustering. And according to Weber, the most important cost was the transportation cost, which was the transportation cost, which is a situation factor. Where are you going to relocate your factory in relation to the market or the raw material? So in Weber's time, the transportation was the most important. In today's world, taking advantage of labor and the cheaper labor is much more important. Then you have this concept of agglomeration. And so this is the process involving the clustering or concentrating of people or activities. This often refers to businesses that benefit from proximity because they share the same skilled labor pools and technological and financial amenities. Example of this would be retail and restaurants around a mall. That's on a much more local scale. So around a mall, it's no coincidence that you see all those stores and all those restaurants clustered near Mall of Millennia. That's because of agglomeration, taking advantage of the same type of customer. Medical and medical supplies and medical equipment and different medical services, different doctors located around a hospital, again, that's agglomeration. Or it could even be on a much larger, in much more regional, like gambling around Las Vegas, or technology around Silicon Valley, or theme parks around Florida. So according to Weber, the manufacturer would locate closest to the market or locate closest to the raw materials. Those are the only two options in terms of, according to Weber, if you're going to minimize transportation because that's the most important cost, then your only options in terms of location would be you could locate closest to the market or you could locate closest to the raw material. Again, these are situation factors. Where do you locate in relation to your raw material or to your market? Now, according to Weber, the only type of industries that would locate near the raw materials would be bulk reducing. Example of this would be like all minerals like copper and iron. And that's because bulk reducing, they lose weight during the processing. And so they don't want to transport unnecessarily because it's a waste of money because they're going to burn off a series amount of junk that comes off of the actual product. The other option is near the market. This is bulk gaining, single market, and perishable. Keeping in mind, bulk gaining means that the product gains weight during production, so you want to get it as close as possible to the consumer, to the market, before adding that additional weight in order to limit those transportation costs. Single market means there's only one market for that particular commodity, for that particular good, and if you want to be in that particular market or sell that particular good, you better be in that market. That would be like high-end fashion in New York City, or country music in, it would be high-end music in, high-end fashion in New York City. Or if you make slot machines that go into the largest casinos, you would need to be near the gambling of Las Vegas. Or perhaps you make a particular product that is necessary for Walt Disney World theme parks, you would need to be located near Orlando. And finally is perishable. Perishable needs to be near the market because obviously that product expires or spoils. And finally, we have here our Mackinder's Heartland Theory and Spikeman's Rimland Theory. So please take a look at this area. We have our heartland, and this represents the rimland. So we're talking about basically this landmass of Eurasia, Europe and Asia, Eurasia. So the purpose of the Mackinder's Heartland Theory and Spikeman's Rimland Theory, so Heartland versus Rimland, is to explain world dominance and control. We have Mackinder and Spikeman, those are obviously our authors. So according to the Heartland Theory, Mackinder said that the land-based power, not a sea-based power, would ultimately rule the world. So land-based power, not a sea-based power. And that Eurasia was the most important area in the world, containing a pivot area extending from Eastern Europe to Eastern Siberia. The pivot area became known as the Heartland. And he created this, this theory that goes as such. Who rules the East Europe rules the Heartland. Who rules the Heartland rules the world island. Who rules the world island rules the world. Many believe that this historically would be more accurate because of the power of Russia and the communist Russia under USSR. Next is the Rimland Theory. The Rimland Theory is Spikeman's theory, and he says that the Eurasian rim, not its heart, held the key to global power, that it would be sea-based, not land-based power would prevail. He parodied Mackinder. He says, he who controls the rimland rules Eurasia. Who rules Eurasia controls the destinies of the world. Spikeman saw a divided rimland as a key to the world's balance of power. And today, many believe that this could be the shift whenever you look at today's rimland includes Western Europe, then swings down and includes India as well, and then swings over and includes China. So again, many believe that this is true today. Okay guys, so this concludes our review of our models. Again, these are very important for you to know the models and know them well. If you know the models and you know them well, then you put yourself in a good position to have a strong foundation in the material. Thanks for listening.